So they just ignored whatever she said and pretty much just did what they wanted to do anyway. After the IEP was completed, I found all of these mistakes on the IEP. I let them know, hey, look, we need to have an emergency meeting so that we can correct these mistakes, because otherwise some of the schools would not accept him. They didn't care. They didn't even bother to make a meeting. I mean, nothing. I didn't hear anything about a meeting. So you would think that once a finalized IEP is completed, referrals will start going out. The first referral was sent out and received on September 13th. And it's not like there was a delay in the mail system because it was electronic. This was literally insane. When I tell you things were slow, it was really slow. Everything was like moving in 2-week cycles. Every 2 weeks, there would be an action. Every 2 weeks. It was like an intentionally planned delay. The first 2 weeks was the middle of the month. The second 2 weeks, the month is over. It was like a steady, intentional plan to delay my son's placement. Intentionally wasting time. This was his last year of school. And school had already started. And he was nowhere near being placed. This was just cruel. I mean, maybe I was being viewed as this problem parent, but it wasn't that I was a problem parent. I was just really literally wanting the best for my kids. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And I was just thinking that the people who were in charge of that would just simply do their job. So what happens to problem parents is an act of retaliation through their children. So you treat my son terribly. You delay his services. You delay his education. All of this just to get at the problem parent. I have a very high index of suspicion that that's what this was all about. So my children had to suffer because I filed a state complaint on their behalf. So that made somebody mad. So now I'm the target. But services are not being provided to attack me. My son is the one who's suffering from that. Yeah, it hurts me, but he's the one who ultimately suffers, not the parent. Wow. So in early October, I received a call from Dr. Savage. She was like really anxious and, oh my God, so willing to get him placed, and he needs to get FAPE, and we can make a public school work, and all of this. And I had been told by the director of a high school, Miss Missy Baxter, that public school was not an option for my son. And I had mentioned, well, maybe we can, create a program and whatnot. It wasn't an option. And basically that was the end of that. So I was really surprised to hear Dr. Savage say that public school was an option. So I wanted to hear more about that. So Ms. Gunshort used that opportunity to jump on the bandwagon and have the meeting regarding the corrections on that day as well. The meeting was held 1 month later. That's not an emergency meeting. So at this meeting, there was a discussion about non-public placements. And I was kind of hesitant about some of the placements, but I was open. The main one they wanted to keep pushing was the Strawbridge School. And that was the school where he had that whole initial trauma where he was transitioned out of his classroom. So I didn't think that was going to be a good thing to do. And his therapist said that wasn't a good thing for him. But they didn't care. So I took my son to go and tour the Strawbridge School anyway, because otherwise they would say, oh, you weren't compliant, so therefore we don't have to do anything. So we went to go and tour the Strawbridge School. Immediately, what I noticed when we got there was his head that was upright and kind of confident at first. When he got to the door, all of a sudden his head went and it was distorted in like this direction, and he would not make eye contact with anyone. That was so weird because I remember when he was going to that school, at times he would come home in that position. And I was like, what's up with that? So there was something not right about this place. And there was something that was making him uncomfortable, where he couldn't speak freely. His head just kind of distorted. And I wasn't feeling that. So I asked him, did he want to go there? And he said no, he didn't feel comfortable. I reported to Howard County that that was not going to be the school for him because he didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable, especially after seeing that. And with his prior history, it just wasn't a good fit. So I said no. I felt like that's the direction they were pushing him in anyway. So that was really the only school that we toured because supposedly the other schools had denied him. Well, was that because you would not make the corrections on the IEP? And I said that they would probably deny him. My son did not have a placement. So, according to the Maryland State Department of Education's final report, their requirement of Howard County was for my son to have a placement by October 8th. October 8th came and it went. Also, part of the requirement was that they had to provide compensatory services for that entire year that my son did not have an IEP. That was required by September 15th. September 15th came and it went with the wind. And there was no compensatory services. There was no action taken by the Maryland State Department of Education when Howard County violated the requirements that they had set for the county to complete by a specified date. So basically their actions were, it's okay if you don't have it done. You're Howard County, you're number one. So therefore that makes it okay. So for number one school districts, we make exceptions. I kept pushing the public school option. Finally, there was an IEP in October 25th. This IEP was to have a discussion about a public school program that would be created for him. Arrangements were going to be made for us to do a tour at one of the public schools that had an alternative learning program in addition to a regional program, which was a program that offered additional behavior and emotional supports. That's what I had requested anyway, but I was told no, that wasn't an option. So Ms. Gunshore was in charge of creating this program for my son, and we had determined that we were going to have 2 behavior staff on board for him, and Ms. Baxter was in charge of arranging the tour. It took Ms. Baxter 3 weeks to schedule a tour for a local public school. When I say things were delayed because of retaliation, I'm telling you, they were delayed. So finally on November 13th, we went to go and tour the school, and my son did amazing. I mean, he did fine with the bell sounds, with the changing classes. He did fine in the cafeteria with all the crowd. A student had accidentally bumped into him and, he just said, excuse me. So he was doing good. He interacted with the staff appropriately. He was asking good questions. He did great. We went to the special education classroom and he interacted with the other students, and he really did an amazing job. When we left, we were really sure that he was going to be starting school soon. I did not hear anything for weeks. So I reached out to Howard County and I didn't get a response. So finally I was told, oh, we're still looking for behavior staff. That was the delay. Meanwhile, my son was really going through a lot of depression. He wanted friends. He didn't have anyone to talk to other than now his new therapist. He was really becoming withdrawn, and it bothered me that he was even just sitting home watching cartoons. So I tried to homeschool him, but that didn't go well. So I really needed help. So I received an email from Miss Jessica Kerr, and she was my son and my daughter's former caseworker. The email that she sent was setting up a date to review my daughter's FBA. My daughter graduated that May, and here we are in December, and now we're going over her FBA. So my response to her was, hey, look, I think the more important picture here is that we start working on my son's placement versus going over my daughter's FBA when she already graduated about 7 months ago. So you can see where that's going as far as a violation is concerned.